Thank you, sir. May I request Simran ma'am to kindly introduce sir with a musical note?
Oh, I don't need that one.
Dr. Cecilia, we are already behind schedule, so without further delay, over to Dr. sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mukta. We had two most powerful sessions. One talks about mindscaping, another talks about transformation. One talks about the integration of technology, another talks about coding, talks about artificial intelligence. What exactly is the education? Do we really understand the core meaning of it? I really do not know much about this one, but I recall that story, that thirsty crow. We all have read number of times that there was a crow was thirsty, और एक घड़ा था उसमें पानी था, कौवा लाया कंकर, घड़े में डाला पत्थर, पानी ऊपर आया, खत्म हुई कहानी, कुएं ने पानी पी. The story doesn't end here. The second crow came. It also wanted to have water. There was no space in the pitcher for another stone. And that's where transformation happened. That's where mindscaping happened. That crow knew water was there at the bottom of the pitcher. He looked, he picked up his straw and drank water. That means transformation can happen anywhere at any point of time with anyone. And that's the proof of that is the man has evolved right from the ancient age to today. But what exactly is education? How a country defines? To deliberate on this, I have an esteemed panel with me, Dr. Reddy, Dr. Arogya Reddy, Mr. Mukesh Seller, Mrs. Alka Avasthi, Ms. Radhika Srinivasan, and Ms. Chetai. Allow me to welcome them with a musical note. Simran ma'am, can you play the musical note to welcome these five stars of education? Thank you, esteemed panelists, joining with me. I can see smiling faces of Radhika is there, Chaitali is there, Simran is there, and Mukesh, Arogya Reddy is there. Mukesh, I can't see you. Are you there? Well, he'll join if he's not there right now. Our dear friends, for any nation, education is the key driver of economic and social progresses. And thus, it very well defined and the futuristic education policy adopts. Taking into account their traditions, their cultures, Indian government also announced NEP 2020 last year. It was almost more than 3 decades when the last revision took place. It was in 1986. Objective is very noble, but there lies a difference between laying down a paper and implementing the policy of that, which is following in spirit. The success of NEP 2020 and the pace of its implementation depends to a large extent on how successfully the educators have understood and taken a challenge to implement it in total spirit. How do we evaluate, how do we perceive the NEP 2020? To discuss all the domains and dimensions of this, I have a huge experienced team with me. Without taking much time, I start since Mukesh is not here right now. So I start with Dr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy, NEP focuses on early child education and also on the medium of instruction, whereas culture focuses on English medium school. We're English medium school. You are in Gulf, you are purely running an international school. How would instructions in vernacular languages would impact holistic development of children? And if yes, we want to implement, how do we implement it? Don't you think diversity would be a big challenge? Over to you, Dr. Reddy.
Well, uh, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, sir. That's a relevant question given the Indian context with the number of languages across India with the different dialects. I can give my own experience when I was in Hyderabad studying. Now it is Telangana, of course. Those days it was Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and the language of the books was always the literary Telugu, which was never the dialect of Telangana. So what I speak at home was different. What I read in the book is different. And some of the words, the phrases that we speak at home were never found in the books, vice versa. The book language was never heard at home. So sometimes it was too difficult for me also to communicate either with my parents or with my siblings uh, because we had this mixed words, vocabulary. Well, coming to the aspect, I think the colonialism or the imperialism has given us the status of English. And we're all happy. I'm pretty happy that, yes, it's because of English that I am at the international level. I do acknowledge that with due respect to that. But at the same time, I think, I process, and I plan everything in my mother tongue or the home language. So my thought process is in that. I can give you another example, which was very shocking for me. When I was a principal in Hyderabad, I had a clerk who came from Urdu medium. Now, as part of the job, he used to type a lot of things for me those days. No computer yet, okay? Uh, so I used to tell him, no, isko pehle laga do, okay? But always that used to be end of the paragraph. Now, over a period of time, I figured out why is he not able to understand, or am I failing to make him understand my language? But later on, when we sat together across a table for a cup of tea on one day, he said, "Sir, I come from Urdu medium and I write from right to left, whereas you write from, okay."
left.
I write from left to right. He writes from right to left. So when I say isko samne laga do, he thinks it has to be here. But my intention was here. Okay, yeah. So I think home language, rather than, I wouldn't say it should be vernacular language, because a lot of us live in a cosmopolitan cities where we
Very
don't
true.
have a common language.
Very true.
And if, for example, Tamil Nadu insists that every book should be in Tamil, then people who hail from Delhi or Punjab who settle in Tamil Nadu, or like Radhika who settled in Mumbai, she would hardly, I mean, face anything in that or enjoy the learning of it. So I think I would say home language is critical, definitely, because all of us, it has been proven scientifically also, and especially we believe that Abhimanyu learned everything in the womb of the mother. So if that is the context we are speaking about it, and I think teaching children in their home language or their native language is very important, and research has proven it time and again. I can quote number of researchers that have come across. So mother tongue is the language that a person grows up from early childhood onwards. But somehow, as I said, the colonial rule has given us that impetus. And somewhere we have in our blood that if I can speak English, I belong to that elite group of the society. Okay. So now language versus the social status has become a symbol for us. In most cases, though we know the local language or the vernacular language, we still tend to speak in English because we want to be acknowledged as the elite of the society. And
So
I
you,
remember this Sanskrit quote, Vidya dadat vinayam vinayadvat patratvat patratvat dhanamapnoti dhanadharmam tapasvam. But whereas that Vidya should have been given or should have brought us humility, which is a requirement, but actually that same English has given us the arrogance. So I think somewhere we need to move to that home language. Yes, sir, you wanted to say
that,
something.
no,
Sorry.
I get your point, Dr. Reddy, though I may not agree that language has given us, English language has given us arrogance. But I'm tempted to your one response. You said Abhimanyu learned from the womb of his mother. And I fully agree with that. I'm very fond of the Mahabharata. I read a lot into this. But I still fail to understand that Abhimanyu at the age of 16 was killed in the Chakravyuh. Yes, mother slept when Arjun was telling the story. I agree. Chetali, you belong to a group which is developing on assessment. And my question linked to this, now Dr. Reddy said Abhimanyu learned from the womb of his mother. Couldn't Arjun or Subhadra, the mother of Abhimanyu, assess Abhimanyu that learning was half? The same thing happened today in the classroom. When I talk about the outcome, we talk about the average. We find there are some children who are high achiever and there are some children who are low achiever. As a teacher, Chetali, I want to understand from you, how do we have a process of assessment and what NEP says about assessment? Over to you, Chetali.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So, see, this is a very interesting question that you asked, actually, because there is assessment is very critical. It's a critical component of effective instruction, and since I'm surrounded by teachers, I don't need to talk about the benefits of it because all of you know it more than I do. However, I feel there's a big difference between assessment of learning and assessment for learning,
Very
because I think when we are talking about assessment of learning, we are talking more mainly like summative exams, which primarily deals around the subject matter that we're talking about. But when you're doing an assessment for learning, it can be a very powerful tool that can offer insight into exactly what needs to happen next. And I think it can actually save teachers the time and make the instruction more targeted and more effective. Like for secondary teachers in particular, I think it is very important to make a clear distinction between high stakes summative testing for the masses and carefully formulated assessments designed by teachers, for their particular class. While it's true that these are both forms of assessment, their intent, their design, and the impact are very different. So, when we talk about assessment, we mean any measure a teacher might use to determine students' understanding and mastery of skills and content. We don't mean exclusively tests, quizzes, or exams. So, for us, assessment includes all of the formal and informal techniques that instructors use to determine how students have progressed so far. And
And
I think when it comes
what
to
NP?
NEP, yeah, so
Yeah,
going
yeah.
back to NEP, see, if you look at it, earlier we had summative assessment, which was end of the year. And it is like basically throughout the year, what has the child learned? But when NEP is talking about formative assessment, and this is something as an organization, we are promoting formative assessments. I think we are, talking about the total impact is it regularly providing a constructive feedback? It is making aware of the gaps in their learning. It is, I think, freeing them of mental and psychological pressure. Because I still remember, till sixth grade, I studied in India, and then after that, I was in US, where it was more and more formative assessments that I used. And I still remember when we had exams in December during the time, and I was in an ICSU school. There was so much of pressure, that entire years were coming in. So I think, the kind of assessment that NEP is talking about is where it spaces out. And, with frequent assessment, the low stake assessment, the child is more motivated to learn because he doesn't feel like, he's being targeted. And I think it gives clarity on where they stand and, where they need to head. So, a teacher can actually identify the actual learning gap that has happened. And NEP proposes to do that. And I think, in all, especially now with COVID, what has happened with the new normal that we have faced, I think even schools have realized that. So, incorporating NEP to, it's not going to be a big challenge.
So assessment has to be spaced out and it shouldn't create a pressure.
Yes,
But
yes.
then, Chetali, I once again ask you a counter question. Professor Pant was asking that if you want to be a teacher, you have to be a learner. Does NEP suggest assessment of every learner, be it on this side of table or on other side of table?
I think it does because when you read the NAP, it's very clearly defines the way that assessment needs to be looked at. It's talking about the total 360-degree aspect of a child. So if you're looking at it, it is addressing not only subject matter expertise, but looking into their softer skill sets, looking into other skill sets, because this is a gap area that exists in the Indian students even now. The other day I was in AICT and we were talking about in college. So Stanford University has made some suggestions about Indian students and what is the gap. And it was a extreme eye opener for me that we are talking about our students still not having that 360-degree learning that they need to. They're extremely good. They know their Pythagoras theorem by heart, but application of it is lacking. So I think somewhere, if you look at NEP, I mean, as far as what I've read and my understanding and what I'm seeing and what we are doing, in fact, in our assessment that we talk about using AI tools like GradeScope, we are actually looking at how learning outcomes can give an idea to the teacher through the assessment. The learning outcomes come in and the teachers then can actually plan out the next step.
So, learning outcome, learning gaps, and 360-degree assessment. Somewhere we have to work out a blend of the three, else, probably as
Yes,
a
yes,
facilitator, we may not fit into this.
yes, yes.
To go further into this one, we have with us Miss Alka. Miss Alka, right now, when I look at the structure of the school system, I am having Montessori education, which is 2 year or some take it 3 year. And then we have the primary, and then we have the middle, and then we have the senior. If I say it is 2 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. Whereas NEP is suggesting 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. It is suggesting that at the age of 6 plus, a child should be in class 1. As an educational leader, Alka ma'am, please tell me how it will change the total demography of the school system. What areas one has to be very careful before implementing this system, which is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Over to you.
Thank you so much, and good evening to the esteemed panel that's there, and of course, Dr. Ashok Pandey, I can see. So, Dr. Hasija, well, the question that you're asking is definitely like, I mean, since I'm an English teacher, and Professor Pant said that a physics teacher is most sought after for tuitions, and English teacher is the least. So I would just start
I
with.
disagree with them. When you are here, who is the principal of a school and belongs to an English teacher, and Chetali is there again, English as a focus. She is heading amongst the top. So is the Dr. Arogya. So I
No,
disagree with Professor Pant.
no, agree. But then I now as a principal, I realize how important it is to have good teachers at all levels, and especially, of course, physics too. But like Aristotle once said, we are what we repeatedly do, and doing in pieces every day, and change has to happen every day. So, like the pedagogical structure that NAP suggests is built on the foundational pillars, of access, equity, affordability, and accountability. And this is what is the basis, the policy is aligned to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, and it definitely aims to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and global knowledge superpower. But like you said, education cannot be effective unless it helps a child open up himself to life, and children develop quickly in the early years. Hence, the new structure will enable laying the foundation, of literacy, numeracy, and thinking skills that are the building blocks for the child's future. And the new segregation of preschool years from the main schooling will pave way, for a more seamless and inclusive transition of child from kindergarten to formal schooling. And like you said, furthermore, the division of these years and grades have been thoughtfully done in line with the kind of cognitive development stages and intellectual advances that a child goes through early childhood and school years and secondary stage. And of course, as I see, this definitely is a pivotal stage. Preschooling is a pivotal stage, for the improvement of intellectual capacities of a child. And I see that this framework is definitely going to help us all. And we are, since we are already now into more than a year into this policy, and we are progressing, and we are trying to assimilate and follow this structure. So I definitely see it as definitely a wonderful point.
So Alka says that this structure will certainly pave way for the holistic development of every child. I also adopted this motto about 20 years back when I said that teach each child, develop whole child. Radhika is with us. Radhika, you have huge experience as a teacher and as an educative leader. I know next door, every child says, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor. Pansa was telling when Nalka referred to it that nobody wants to be a dancer, nobody wants to be dance teacher. He referred a language teacher, but I am not agreeing. But I do agree with the dance. Nobody wants to take as a profession. I still remember I'm telling you 1981, rather 80. I did my BSc honors maths and I did my computer science. I topped in Delhi University in computer science, worked on punch card system, and I told my father that I want to be teacher, and he was not for it. He said, "No, men are not respected in the teaching line, so don't go. You do MSc operational research and go ahead." And I said, I will make a difference. I'm coming to the point that when we compartmentalize as a parent also, that he is engineer, he is doctor, he is chartered accountant, and this is IAS humanities. Does NEP talks about interdisciplinary approach whereby we make a holistic child, a child which is fully developed in all domains of education? Over to you, Miss Radhika.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hasija. Namaste. We've had really very packed discussions and plenary sessions. So, following very closely on the ideas that these great thinkers have left us, what you rightly said is compartmentalization into, doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, lawyers, architects, and so on. Um, we are starting, I mean, I'm really appalled to see that we are starting this very, very, very early. As early as kindergarten, parents are aiming that at age 18, my child would go to IIT. At age 18, my child will become a doctor. And in doing that, they're really robbing the child of their creative geniuses or their mindsets and their attitudes as early as grade, in senior kindergarten. I just like to quickly share an anecdote. In my capacity as a principal, I was interacting with a couple who had come in for admission in junior kindergarten, and the father wanted to know that, ma'am, I have a request to make. Please don't teach my child, ABC, nursery rhyme, so on, so forth, so forth. I will prepare an entire set of worksheets and this thing for my child, and you please administer that. So I said, why would you want to do that? He says, my child at age 3 knows ABC, everything, everything. He knows the rhymes, he knows everything. I want you to teach him alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta, and so on. I was very curious. I said, why is that? Why do you want to pressurize the child with the Greek alphabet? He says, ma'am, don't you know physics के और IIT के सब formulae alpha, beta, gamma, delta ही होते हैं.
Oh my God.
My child has already learned ABC, so please
Hmm.
teach him this. I think that we are very regimented, and at least in India, we are a very, very competitive nation. We want our child to excel in not only in one but in everything. We want them to be a first class swimmer. We want them to do tennis classes, chess classes, sports classes. Be the best writer, be the best elocution, debate expert, be everything. And so competitive we are, and we compartmentalize everything so early, and everything is so regimented. So I think the NEP wants to break from these shackles. They want us to think of convergent teaching. We must learn how to do this kind of convergent thinking, because whether you are a doctor and you need to read a cardiogram from a machine, or an engineer who needs to find out that what would be the efficacy of my machine if I were to sell it at this price in my factory, or whether it is a chartered accountant who wants to know how to maximize profit for the company who's making XYZ products. It should all converge to, to life. It should all converge to what is happening around us. It should all converge to keeping environmental scenario, climate, everything. So I think that we must break away from these very regimented, shackles.
So we
And
must we must break away from all these shackles, Radhika says, and she said
yes,
we need to converge into the various domain. Dr.
yes,
Reddy, it's very easy to say, though allow me to counter Radhika. Today, top 50 companies of US, think of their CEO. Most of them are Indian and they belong to the education system who have been compartmentalized, as Radhika says. But not going at that, NEP offers flexibility of subject. To take away these shackles, NEP says you have, the combination of subject to be taken. Dr. Reddy, what do you think? is it practically possible that child teaching accountancy and bio? And if yes, how do we as a leader integrate this into the school system? What are the challenges you perceive? Please share some light on this, Dr. Reddy.
Yes, well, I totally agree your previous statement where you stated that arts and aesthetics have lost value these days. But I think NEP is trying to reinvent the wheel. I can give you a simple example. Yesterday we had the painting exam of CBSE. We had close to 98 schools in UAE. Hardly less than 10 schools had exam yesterday.
Oh my God.
So you can imagine the ratios. So aesthetics is critical. And as I was reading a couple of weeks back about the Nobel laureates or the Nobel Prize winners, it is said that 60% of them have music as a hobby. Okay, and all of us know about the left and right brain concepts. So I will not go into those details anyway. But I think combining the subjects or giving them combinations with science, arts, or humanities is possible. And I can give you my own school example. I have students who opt for biology in 11 and 12, and their focus is towards medicine or pharma, whatever. They're more into bio. But there is a pressure for the fourth subject. So some of them who want to go to US, definitely maths is mandatory at 12th if they wish to go for medicine to US. So they end up with maths though they don't like. There are others who parental pressure who come into computer science, but I always tell them no need. I offer PE as fourth option. I offer economics as fourth option. I also offer English literature as a fourth option.
So
So it's their choice.
is it very easy? Sorry, interrupting you. As a
It
time
is easy, sir. The
okay,
only challenge we face is timetabling.
yes.
The only
So I was
challenge.
going to ask. Hmm.
It's only the timetabling. But if we can tweak around the timetable and make sure that there are these, see, most of the time what happens, even schools are compartmentalized. This is maths wing, this is bio wing, this is commerce wing, this is humanities wing. We don't need to.
I appreciate that means the flexibility amongst the teacher also is a very important.
Right. And most of the time, we don't prepare them for the professional colleges when they go in for, let us say, engineering or the medicine. One lesson would be in one block, the second lesson would be somewhere in the other block, which you always experienced. But in school, we never prepare them for those things. We always keep them in that tight compartment. If this room is for biology, all students of bio stream would be only in these four rooms. So
So
we
you
restrict their mobility, and that actually ultimately does not prepare them for the world. Second thing, I mean, I come from South and then Hyderabad, all the more Andhra Pradesh, where we have the IIT toppers every year when the results are declared, okay, be it NEET or the previous IIT JE, whatever, okay. But if you look at the dropout rate of IITs, it's very alarming, and especially from AP, because they have been into that compartmental system where they have been rigorously doing just that work, academic work, right from grade 6 onwards. And thanks to these corporates or the coaching centers, that's the way they have prepared them to crack the exam. But they failed in preparing them for life. Because when they move into IIT, it's not just the academics alone. They
I
also need
agree.
a lot of other skill set.
I agree. And Dr. Reddy, let me tell you, it's about 15 years back. I was part of the national conference CBSE in Tamil Nadu, and we were in Chennai. And I was interacting with the principal who says that students report to school in the morning at 5 a.m. because 5 to 8 we have the coaching for IIT. And this is a fact today that number of the institutes are trying to grab a child in class 5 itself to prepare for IIT. The exam happens after 12 plus. Alka ma'am, I want to ask you this question that when we are talking about holistic development, when NEP talks about competency based education, And on one end, we say that we must train child learning to learn because learning is throughout the life. How do we achieve this crust of the NEP 2020? What are your suggestion as a principal, as education leader, which I must follow in order to achieve this objective?
Well, sir, we can, like you said, that the competency based learning, and how can we ensure that this is achieved? Well, the first and the foremost that I see is that we need to have our teachers also. When I say learning, how to learn, teachers also, they need to be equipped to ensure that the competency based learning is is introduced as well as followed in letter and spirit in schools. And see, at times, because though we had been used to of a certain style of functioning and working in a school, and when you bring about a change, it definitely needs a lot of preparation, and which is definitely going on, from the side of CBSE also, and other platforms such as one that we are attending at the moment. So, like I said, NEP is basically equipping everyone with the skills to follow what they propagate. And when I said change is definitely inevitable, and adaptability to change makes, the society future ready. So when we've currently seen it in the during this pandemic, and also for competency based learning, I personally feel that we can achieve it when the educators are also equipped with how to handle the students.
So educator must be equipped with how to handle the student. Before I
Students,
take
sorry.
up next
G, G.
panelist, I have one of the audience member. I'm not naming it. The teacher has written, I'm a math teacher and I love Hindi poetry. But I was not allowed to recite a poem, and I would say, dear educator, please go ahead. I also teach mathematics and I also love Hindi poetry. So never ever surrender. Let your administrator convince you. You get convinced
Said the
that
question is how to change the mindset of such teachers.
I'm
That's the
coming.
question.
I'm coming to change of mindset. But somewhere, if you can link your poetry with the learning of the subject, I do not know exact poetry, but it is said that in our one of the history, when one of our Raja was mm, mm, lost the war. I'm trying to recollect the name I had used in one of the play. तो उनका एक वो जो पोएट था, उसने किल करने के लिए उसको एक पोएट्री में बताया कि राजा की पोजीशन क्या है। तो आप हार मत मानिए, मानता हूं और सब कुछ हार नहीं मानता। तो कभी हार मत मानिएगा। You carry on, things will change, and probably this panel's reflection would certainly make some impact on this. Prithviraj Chauhan, yes, Deepika is telling me Prithviraj Chauhan lost the battle, and that his poet told him where is that the person sitting there, and he was very precise in using the bow and arrow, and he killed that Raja. Coming to my next question to Chaitali. Chaitali, Alka was talking about competency based. Even CBSE is also talking about competency based assessment. Rather, in 2020, CBSE chairman has issued a circular that assessment by 22 would be shifted to entire competency based. As a teacher, as a principal, I'm looking for some technology support which can train my every teacher to assess competency based skill. Can you throw some light on this? What exactly is the competency based assessment? Do you have some system into it? How do we integrate as per NEP? Over to you, Chetan.
See, I think I would like to talk about John Hattie's seminal research. That if any one of you have read it, he's shown that a feedback-based formative learning cycle makes the most significant impact on student learning, even under normal circumstances. So forget about the new normal or the hybrid model that we are talking about. I think we, if you look at any of our product, like we have something called Turnitin Feedback Studio, which has got similarity checking also incorporated in it, where student teachers are encouraged to provide feedback, so that everything that comes. I think what's most important is that we want to create originality in students, but we are not allowing them the space to be original. And I think it's kind of like going back to in the to our chat. It's kind of like the mindset that, okay, if you're a maths teacher, you cannot properly train some students for Hindi poetry. So likewise, this is always happening. So I think using AI learning, machine learning, whatever you do, you still have to ensure that the learning content and the mode of instruction is in line with the assessment strategy and the rubric plan. So the teacher plays a very crucial role. In elsewhere, when I was hearing earlier, when Professor Pant was talking about the teacher's role get minimized, I really don't think so, because no software can plan out the assessment. The teacher still has to set the assessment. What AI can do, and like one of our platform called Gradescope, what it does is you can actually plan out the rubrics. You can plan out to make it easier for grading purpose, easier for testing as to see whether they're cheating from each other or not, through the similarity that will come in. You can encourage students to use draft coach, with the Turnitin Feedback Studio, where students can learn how to write. But ultimately, it is very important that to maintain the academic integrity without being overly punitive with new requirement on students, and to start the journey of academic integrity as early as possible in the learning process, and to keep on reinforcing the same as you move along the learning path. And I think, leveraging technology to implement continuous assessments will help the students and teachers take the fear out of the assessment process. So it is not that, that the technology will sit and take your textbook and prepare the questions. I mean, that doesn't happen. It is the teacher has to play a role in terms of what questions to be set. So, the tool can help you. The tool will ensure that, okay, you don't have to duplicate your work. You can do duplication of the task. You can roll it out in different classes. So definitely we have technology to do that. But I think it is to make it more positive approach we need to adopt in adopting assessment, as a means to aid learning and to measure effectiveness of the teaching process of content. Um,
Assessment to aid learning is the most important part, and that's where
yes,
academic integrity is very, very important.
yes,
I read somewhere when I was reading about what is education, and response was that after 10 years of schooling, when you forget physics, chemistry, mathematics, and whatever you remember, that is education. Radhika ma'am, uh, when we say that education is beyond physics, chemistry, bio, mathematics, that means we are talking about life skills. We are talking about teamwork. We are talking about empathy. I often says that read, write, and arithmetic, the three R's, have no meaning. It's only one domain. Actually, it is developing a relation to self, society, and environment, and that encapsulates everything what we talk about. So please suggest us as a leader, what are the few strategies by which these key areas of NAP or the 21st century skills can be inculcated very well in a school system? Over to you, Radhika.
Yes, sir. So this is, I think, this is the most, this is the most critical thing, that what, why does a child enter into an education system, or why do we send children to schools, or why are we working in schools? Are we factories to produce doctors, engineers, lawyers, architects, or are we, a crucible where we are going to bring about thinkers, We are going to bring about people having more balanced relationships. So some strategies which we can use in schools definitely are, like circle time. So we have a very important strategy in school, which is circle time, where students are free to speak their mind. They discuss with each other, and many problems can get eliminated. You can also have project based and problem solving methodology incorporated into your system. So you can have, instead of them having a math, physics, chemistry, biology and the same project separately an exam, you can give them one project, which we did, like, for example, we asked grade 2 students that make a bridge with whatever materials you can find in the class. It can be paper, it can be cardboard, it can be ice cream sticks. So everything, the laws of mechanics, the laws of physics, material sciences, everything came into it. They discovered how to make a bridge, how the weight will be sustained, and a lot of learning went into it. We have to give uh, children time to tinker, children time to be curious, children time to ask questions, and children time to wonder. I think somewhere between the our kindergarten to the boardroom, we stop asking questions. We stop. We start accepting everything. But a little child will never accept. There will be 1,000 whys. Why? Why? Don't touch fire. Why? Don't do this. Why? So, when we stop asking questions, so allow children to ask questions, have open discussions, debates, and forums. At least in my school, I am very clear that even if you don't do two chapters in your syllabus, that's fine. But talk to the children. Don't be the only one to have a monologue in the class. A class where the teacher is doing the maximum amount of talking is not at all the right atmosphere for a child to learn and grow. So, talk, brainstorm, collaborate, analyze, give opportunity to ask lots of questions, be curious, and don't ignore, the tiny things. The tiniest things can make the most impact for children. One small this thing of, yes, I loved your question, or I like the way you answered that, will make a whole lot of change to the way a child responds and reciprocates. So, as like the tiny things, we should never ignore it. As a teacher, don't brush off the children. Give them ample opportunity. So, from the chaos theory says that the things that really change the world are the tiniest things. A
Very true.
butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazonian jungle, and a storm ravages half of Europe. So don't ignore the tiny things.
I Radhika really appreciate that. Before I come back to every panelist for the last two tips, their suggestion for implementing NEP effectively, I just want to tell you a story that since we are talking about education, in a jungle line, the king also thought that we must educate our children because these all people are invading the jungle and they are killing that. So he made a curriculum. He said everybody should be good in running, swimming, and jumping. Now you can imagine when he made it, he asked monkey to swim. He'd asked crocodile to climb the tree. And what had happened, you can imagine. I'm only trying to come to the point in a classroom. 35 children are with a different mindset. They have the unique approach. Radhika said we should not cover the curriculum, we should uncover the curriculum, rather discover the curriculum. And that's where the connect is very important. How do we make this connect? What are the important strategies which, as education leader, you think must be adopted to have the holistic learning, to have the whole child developed. I go one by one. I start with Dr. Reddy. Over to you, Dr. Reddy. Then next, I'll come to Alka, then Radhika, then Chetan.
Well, I think NEP has given us the flexibility, first thing. But I think, as Dr. or our well known friend and Sir Bala Sir has said, or Dr. Pant said clearly, there is the self or intrinsic motivation which every leader has to adopt. First is, I would say, that agility of the leadership. Am I flexible enough to change my timetable, be it, or my pedagogy style, or my infrastructure, or the resources available, that whatever I have, to fit into everyone and also to cater to the needs of every child? As you have rightly at your back, sir, teach each child, but develop whole child. If that is strictly followed in every school, where each child has individual differences and we cater to their individual differences and individual needs, at the same time, we prepare them as socially responsible citizens of the globe, not just India or Tamil Nadu or Andhra, whatever, for the globe. Because this future generation, we don't know where their destination is going to be. And they need to be more pluralistic as well and adaptable as well.
So, flexibility of the leader and inculcating the 21st century skill would certainly make a child fully developed child. Over to you,
Yes.
Alka. Sorry, we have constraint of times. So, Alka, over to you.
Yes, sir. Sir, like I said, NEP definitely, the road of learning that stretches before us is both exciting and is filled with challenges, and the journey has begun. Well, as per what I believe is that definitely pedagogical leadership is what it is all about, and all the principals all over India and outside India also are becoming pedagogical leaders. So I see a bright future, because definitely all that NEP talks about is what we need: a thinking leader. And I've already seen it in you, sir. Well, I worked under you, and you created a
We,
leader.
we
So
work together. Let
and
me,
and and I have always seen, I mean, the way sir is, I mean, it is, you learn things from each and every individual. You learn the best, that you can get out, the best points and the best, and like, Dr. Miss Reddy also said, you got to give a direction to the children, to of course empower the educators,
thank you. Thank
and
you.
ensure that and empower and help them become leaders also, sir.
One of the audience says, if we inculcate life skills on regular basis and provide a conducive environment, everything is possible. Alka says we must have a pedagogical leader and leadership. I don't know what kind of leader and leadership was Dronacharya when he refused Eklavya, but I will not debate. I go to Radhika. Radhika, over to you.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
so I'll keep it brief. I feel that the two important things that we need to acknowledge is disruptive innovation. Uh, what COVID has taught us is that disruption is key for transformation. Overnight, we were able to change. Nobody in their right minds would have been, would have, at least in schools, would have acknowledged that, yes, I can do online teaching. So, disruptive innovation, we have to respect disruptive innovation. And secondly, as educators, I think we must teach our children that they need to work to become and not to acquire. They must work to become and not to acquire. I mean, this is not my quote. This is a quote by Albert Hubbard, but this is one of her very powerful quotes, which I go back to time and again. So
So
that's it
we,
from me.
thank you, Radhika. We need to respect the disruptive innovation. And yes, it is said that necessity is the mother of innovation. All innovation happened because there was something a strong desire. Over to you, Chetali, now. You
I
are
would
the key for everything. So please tell us.
Oh, yes. I would like to just say one thing, ensure that the assessment that is developed is measuring the learner's competencies in the fairest way. I think that is some challenge I have faced, even when my children were studying over here. And at the same time, maintaining a high standard of assessment validity because, as the saying goes, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So we need to ensure that we are judging people for the right skills and giving them that opportunity to learn those skill sets before putting them into brackets and saying that this is your core competency or this is your core competency. I had a liberal arts education also in my college, and I took different subjects. And I think it was so much more exciting because I took religion as well as cost accountancy. And I think, little bit I learned of everything. And it has helped me a lot in my career that I have chosen. So that's all I
Thank
would
you,
like to say.
Chetali. Chetali says if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, the whole life fish will live with stupidity. But on other hand, all five Pandavas went to the same guru, same environment.
No, sir, I'm
They,
not saying that it will live in stupidity. I'm saying that
yes,
it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid,
believing that it is. Yes, I'm
though they
sorry.
may not be stupid.
Yes, they may not be stupid. Believe that she was stupid. But I'm coming to the all five Pandavas. They went to same guru, same environment, learned different arts. But when it comes to competition, competition of winning Draupadi, sorry to use the word winning, but it was like that only. Only Arjun was capable. Unfortunately, on the platform of life, with the huge number we have, the challenges are very different. With this, I come to end of this NEP discussion session of Samurja Annual Symposium. I hope we all together could bring an iota of thought in implementing NEP 2020 effectively in your respective schools and classrooms. Thank you, Dr. Mukta, giving us a chance. Thank you all panelists for being with me and being so patient. Over to you, Dr. Mukta.
Thank you so much. It was really a power-packed panel, and one of the element, like Mr. Mukesh, he could not join us. He's stuck in an emergency in the family. He's in the hospital. So from Samurja, we wish him that he must recover fast. Our best wishes are with him. And as an educator, what the participants, the teachers have absorbed it. We have with us Amita, who will be sharing. So it will be a litmus test what this NEP has impacted, how it has impacted the teachers. Over to Amita, please.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, panelists and Dr. Rajesh Hasija, sir. It's not possible to sum up such an enlightening discussion in a few words, but I would try to do some justice to it. Uh, Dr. Hasija set the ball rolling for a reflective discussion on competency based learning and the holistic development of learners with respect to the national education policy. Dr. Arogya Reddy, with his reflective approach and his back to the roots philosophy, elaborated upon how, without discounting the advantages of learning a foreign or a second language, learning one's own language is always beneficial. Learning things in our own language is always beneficial, and one can connect with knowledge content more when one learns in their own language, and that is something the NEP advocates. Miss Chaitali Moitra, with her varied experience of learning in India and abroad, realized that assessments are absolutely critical in learning process, and a clear distinction should be there in the minds of the teacher so that they could do justice to a student's potential. NEP's formative assessments will loosen the pressure and encourage self-motivated learning. Dr. Alka Avasti, as a thoughtful principal, believes that pedagogical structures of the NEP, which presents a relatively clearer division of the school years, lays proper foundation of smooth and seamless transition of the preschoolers to higher secondary grades. It's also very likely to ensure holistic development. Ms. Radhika Srinivasan, with great conviction, stated that NEP, with its convergent thinking, breaks away from the regimented approach that the parents and educators usually have towards a child's learning behavior. The approach will give students lots of liberty to pursue choices. So basically, in order to have learners equipped with skills that are needed in the years to come and to create a happy learning environment, NEP is the way forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Amita. So it is being perceived very well by all the teachers. So you are the litmus test for that. Thank you so much. Uh, I would like to share with all the participants and panelists that we have with us Ms. Chitali Sharma, Head Academic Partnerships, uh, Turnitin. Because of her, this panel was powered by Turnitin. Chitali, will you please come on the screen and extend the verbal greetings? Chitali Sharma.
Thank you, Dr. Misra. Thanks a lot for giving me these special moments. I cannot express in words how inspired I am with this discussion. It was thought nurturing. I am a mother of two kids, and I cannot thank enough the panelists for such thought provoking discussions. I love the idea that learning doesn't stop with an age. There is always an element that we keep learning, and we need to always have our mind open. Loved all the nuggets of knowledge that was shared with the eminent panelists and speakers. And thank you so much for making Turnitin a part of this particular symposium. We are really honored, and we hope to have association in future. Thank you.
Definitely, Ms. Sharma. Before we invite Dr. Pandey for the final blessings, I'll request Simran ma'am to kindly play their video. Once again, that was the request from Chitali Sharma.
Education is built on trust. But in today's landscape, schools and universities are faced with more sophisticated types of misconduct than ever before. That's why we created Turnitin Originality, the new standard in academic integrity. This comprehensive solution gives students, instructors, and administrators the tools to identify unoriginal work and reveal insights. Originality teaches students the value of integrity, helping them to avoid plagiarism and develop their original thinking skills. While writing, students can use Draft Coach to reveal similarities in their work. Multiple submissions allow them to catch any inadvertent copying. And citation guidance helps them improve citation style and identify missing references. Thanks to intelligent insights, Originality empowers instructors to help their students write original work and reduces the number of issues they might face. Filters and flags make finding critical issues much easier. Then there's the document details, which surfaces metadata so instructors can easily view the origin of students' work. When it comes to protecting their institutional reputation, administrators can use Originality to mitigate the risks of misconduct. In an intuitive dashboard, work that shows signs of misconduct are flagged. The document can then be clicked for more information and processed into a full detailed report. So whether you're a student who needs help writing, an instructor looking to verify original work, or an administrator working to preserve trust in your institution, Originality keeps integrity at the core of everything you do. Turnitin Originality, the new standard in academic integrity.
Muktaji,
Sorry.
you're muted. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Simran. Before we wrap up day one of the symposium, I would invite Dr. Pandey for the blessings and some tips to improve, maybe to the panelists and to Team Samulja. Over to Dr. Pan.
Muktaji, after such a great session, you decided to pick up a person like me and embarrass thoroughly. You want me to bless people? I'm the one blessed for the last 3 hours. I was glued, did not miss a single moment. And how richly, I have benefited, you know, I just cannot describe you in words. But yes, since I have listened to all these very erudite panelists and speakers, two or three thoughts were coming to my mind. First, of course, Professor Pant, Professor Pant is a prolific speaker, as all of you know. And when he said that teachers might be replaced, and you raised a red flag also, I want to underline that what he actually meant. He is not here. I'm not defending him. He is profoundly competent to defend himself. But I'm only reflecting on that. You know, what is happening today is that a teacher's time, if you see how the allocation is, and if we make a statistics that in a week, if we spend, let us say, 50 hours, right? So how those 50 hours are distributed? And if I say that they are distributed in 5 main domains or pockets, so each domain, let us say 5 hours somewhere, 15 hours somewhere, and summing up to 50 hours. So what is new technology and AI is going to do is that helping teachers to save 2 hours here, 3 hours there, 4 hours there, and carving out 10 to 15 hours of this 50 hours, which technology can do. And therefore, when we are left with this 15 to 16 hours of free time, how we are going to invest in ourselves and invest in the students and the community. That is what is going to happen. So this is one thing. And the second thing, of course, is algorithm has been talked about so much. And therefore, I just want to add that all of us as leaders and teachers have to write new algorithms for the new world. And if we don't do that, probably somebody else will write the algorithm and we'll be written off by that. Okay. Yeah. So that is one thing that we have to be very, very careful about. And of course, the panel discussion on NEP implementation, how hardcore advocate of NEP I am. And listening to these 4-5 people steered by Dr. Hasija has given me immense optimism that we are on the right course. And, technology partners like Turnitin, I think we are all going to work together. You see, the only thing that is going to happen is that the teachers will have new tools. Okay. The problem of education, I think Ms. Chaitali Moitra was talking about assessment. And I want to put it a little differently. Somebody said that the problem of education is poor education or lack of education, right? And how much education we are getting is decided by the assessments. And therefore, the problem of education is assessments, you're right? And you heard so many anecdotes about it. So I think assessments are going to have a great role to play. And how we teach, what we teach, how children learn and what they learn, and how we prepare them for future and for lifelong, not only in terms of time, but also in terms of experiences, the wide-ranging experiences. That is what is going to be the future of things. And I'm sure the education community in India is fully prepared, geared up, sensitive to it. And if pandemic experience is any indicator, I'm sure we are up to meeting any challenges head on. And the networking opportunities, sharing of experiences and wisdom that people like you are providing is only an icing on the cake, and it is only going to make things better. So my best wishes to you, my congratulations to all the panelists for bringing forth on the table some of the best nuggets that one can think of. And my thanks, of course, to Turnitin for powering it and giving the fuel and energy to take this symposium forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Since there is paucity of time, I'll request Amita to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to Amita, please.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Uh, I'm honored to have been given the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks for the first day of this session. I believe we are all in agreement that the session was an extremely fruitful one and was of great relevance to all belonging to the educators community. The success of today's program rests upon the shoulders of several bright minds. I would like to begin by thanking all our guests and panelists who led the course of discussion toward productive and effective outcomes. Thank you, Balasubramaniam sir, in absentia, for emphasizing upon transformation. In a world where shelf life of knowledge is only 6 weeks, we are all dealing with digital native, and we all second your views on learnability. I would like to extend my gratitude to Professor M. Pant in absentia for introducing us to future ready learning and taking us from low bandwidth learning to high bandwidth learning in terms of existing functions and status of teachers. Your interesting anecdotes and examples and book suggestions also helped us enrich ourselves. I would thank our panelists, Dr. Arogya Reddy, Dr. Alka Avasti, Mrs. Radhika Srinivasan, and Mrs. Chaitali Moitra for their valuable input in the discourse. Thank you, Dr. Ashok Pandey, for sharing your views on the current state of things. I'm sure it has struck a chord with all the school educators. I would like to thank Dr. Rajesh Hasija for having mentored Samuja from its very onset and always showing us the way towards greater heights. I would also thank our partner Turnitin for their support. I would thank Mukta Mishra ma'am for being the heart and soul of Samuja and making constant efforts
Lady with a lamp.
to involve more and more people into this odyssey of learning. I would thank Simran ma'am for making sure that the program ran smoothly without any technical glitches. I would also thank Priti ma'am for handling all administrative needs of the program with remarkable efficiency. And last but not least, I would thank all the attendees, those who are in the meeting and those who are watching us on social media for your prompt feedback and responses and encouraging us to always look for fresher avenues of learning. Thank you. Do not forget that there's a second day of the symposium, which will be held tomorrow. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Dr. Mukta and the entire team. Great.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Recording stopped.